Welcome. On September 11th, 2001, the United States was attacked by terrorists in New York. This was a weapon of attack that was formed against the U.S., but it did not prosper. Now, although many lives were lost, the intention was to take control of the United States. The weapon was formed, but the enemy was not successful. As a result of the attack, the U.S. went to war with Iraq because the president believed that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction that he planned to use against us. In January of 2003, I was called from the Army Reserve into active duty status, and I was deployed to Iraq. The intention was to stop the weapons from prospering against the U.S. So we went into the enemy's territory to fight against them. It was a proactive measure because we got caught with our guards down during 9/11. But we were not going to make the same mistake. 9/11 was an attack from Osama bin Laden in Afghanistan, and the war in 2003 was against Saddam in Iraq. Two different demons, but the same enemy with the same intention. John 10:10 says, "The thief cometh not but to steal, kill, and destroy." Weapons of mass destruction are designed to destroy in mass capacity, leaving no survivors. Whatever weapon Saddam had was believed to have the potential to destroy, leaving no survivors. The U.S. was going into Iraq was an offensive and defensive strategy. Everything was strategic, from the soldiers who were sent, the training locations, to the time frame. We did not just go straight into Iraq because the war had not officially been declared. The president had sent warnings to Saddam to turn the weapons over to the U.S., but he still had to prepare. We still had to prepare that he wasn't going to. We still had to get ready to go to war and be ready when the word was given to go. The military has different units that all do different things, and each one is like different weapons. The infantry units are the frontline soldiers that are the first line of defense. They have the big guns, the tanks, and the equipment to cause the most damage. When there are transportation units, which is what I was in, within the transportation units, there are different vehicles that serve different purposes. For example, my unit transported the fuel needed for the vehicles to get from place to place. There are also supply units that transport the supplies, such as food and water. Then there are medical units that transport the hurt and the wounded or go to see about them. Now, of course, there's many other different areas of the military, too many to try to list. As Christians, we already know that we have an adversary, the devil, who wants to devour us. We have to be prepared to fight, and in some cases, go in and attack the devil first. 1 Peter 5:8 says, "Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour." We must also understand what type of battle we're in and what we're up against. 1 Corinthians 10:3-5, it says, "For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ." See, the U.S. had experience with Saddam in the past, and he had been defeated before during Desert Storm 1 and 2. This allowed us to be better prepared to go in a third time. In this same way, we have to be prepared to defeat the enemy every time, no matter how many times it takes. See, the devil never quits, he never gives up, so we can never quit. During the war, there was a uniform that I had to wear daily that signified that I was ready or prepared for the day's assignment or mission. If I did not have that uniform on, if I didn't have all the pieces that needed to be there, I could not go on the mission. Every piece had a purpose, but with one common goal, and that was to protect me. There were pieces in addition to the basic uniform itself. The additional parts of the uniform were a Kevlar, also called a helmet, to protect your head from injuries such as bullets. We wore a belt that held our canteens, our magazines that are full of our bullets, and a first aid kit. A flak vest to prevent glass and metal from hitting our hearts. I also had to carry my M16 rifle at all times. However, depending on the mission, we may or may not have it loaded. I also wore boots to protect my feet because we did a lot of walking. Depending on the threat level or danger level, we had additional uniforms called MOP gear, which was to protect us from nuclear attacks. The Bible tells us to put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For again, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore, take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all to stand. That's Ephesians 6:11-13. So as Christians, we need to know how to fight both offensively and defensively against the devil's weapons of mass destruction. Stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. Ephesians 6:14-17. And so in this intro, we learned just the background of my experience of going to war, and it's just a brief introduction of this series that we're going to get into. I encourage you to stay tuned for the next series of this. We're going to look at how to fight the devil using defense weapons. Defensive weapons is what we're going to look at in this next part. Thank you for tuning in.